My audio is working. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Happy Friday to you as well, Jahar. Good morning, Asymmetrics. Welcome back. So today we're going to continue working on the save system that I've been building out. And there's a couple of extra things to do there. And by a couple of extra things, I mean there's a massive amount of work left to do. So we're going to try that. But the good news is that the save system is saving abilities and artifacts and currency and board layouts and all that stuff. So I think the hardest part is done, but we'll have to see if that is indeed the case. I'll show you how I handled some like persistent state stuff for abilities and artifacts. But before we get into that, Alchemortis is available for wish listing, so if you're interested in a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can create your own builds and synergies with alchemy, then Alchemortis is for you. Go ahead and wish list it. I would appreciate that. You can also support the game on Patreon. As a reminder, if you subscribe at this top sponsored tier for at least 1 month, I'm going to send you an Alchemortis Steam key when the game launches, so you don't have to buy it again. And your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. There's also a bunch of other perks here, the most notable one being unlimited course access. So while you're subscribed, all of my course content is available for or available to you. So yeah, you get all of those perks. So it's just, I think it's a nice little incentive if you want to support, but you can also support by purchasing one of my Udemy courses directly. These help me out a lot. This is how I'm paying the bills for the most part right now. And you also learn how to build games in the Godot engine. So check those out. Those are linked below. You can also like the video, follow on Twitch, subscribe to my YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And joining the Discord is absolutely free. So I hope to see you there. And yeah, that's it. Let's get right into it. Hello, the Malicious Rabbit. Good morning. Hello, Kyofu Ketchup. I think that's how I say that. Good morning. Hello, Stup Bill. Welcome back. Alrighty. So the save system as I currently have it. So I've got a run save model here, but I also have a run save manager. The run save manager here is it's just a node that can load the current run based on the run config that's passed in. This run config can have a save model, which is like the previously saved game. And then it loads currency, artifacts, player combat board, player inventory board, the character, all that good stuff. And then it basically does those things when it does, or the reverse of those things when it goes to save. So it saves the combat board, saves the inventory board, saves artifacts, all that good stuff. So, I mean, that was all pretty straightforward. I think a lot of you saw me working on the board saving and loading. But one interesting thing is I needed to introduce a system for storing persistent data. So if I look at the flagram here, this has a stacks value that increases every time this card is paralyzed, or the first time this card is paralyzed in combat. So basically this flagram is supposed to gain 2 damage permanently every time it gets paralyzed for the first time. And the problem is that obviously I need to be able to save that data in my save system so that when I load up the game, I can reset this stacks value. So what I have is I have a state transfer object. This state transfer implements iState transfer. iState transfer just it has a get state that just returns an object, so basically it can return anything, and a set state which takes anything. And then we have a serialize and deserialize methods here for going to and from JSON. And then we have a state transfer which accepts a generic type, and that extends iState transfer. And so the benefit of doing this is I can now get a little bit of type safety here. So I can say, here's my getter, here's my setter. These will either take in T or return, or sorry, is this it? Yeah, this will either return T or accept T as an argument. And then I could just pass those along in get state and set state. And I can be, and those are like type safe. Like I can safely cast that state value that's coming in as an object to T because I'm defining that type ahead of time. And then to serialize is pretty straightforward as well. J token from object and then data to object. And this just has a try catch so that if it fails, I can log a warning, but it doesn't crash the loading. The loading of the game. So this would be like handling the case where, let's say that I changed the shape of some persistent data for whatever reason, and a player has an existing save. It would be unable to take the old shape of the data and deserialize it into the new shape, or it could be unable to do that. And so what I'll do in that case is I'll just like silently fail that and just ignore loading that persistent state, which will be unfortunate for sure, but less unfortunate than the game crashing. So anyway, that persistent state then can be added to the card save model, card ability save model. So we have the provenance, which is basically where is this ability originally defined. So the provenance might be, it's the poison ability on, you know, what's a poison? The Amanita muscaria, right? So the provenance might be this specific poison ability comes from the Amanita muscaria, right? And so that way that I can store the ability provenance, which means that when I alchemize cards, I can say, hey, this poison that got alchemized onto this sword or whatever, that poison originated from the Amanita muscaria. So then when I go to load up the game, I could just go and instantiate under the hood the Amanita muscaria, grab the ability that matches that poison value, that poison key, and then take that and put that back onto the card that was alchemized, right? So that's basically how I'm doing that. And then the persistent state, this is just a J token, which is basically just like any JavaScript token, or JSON token, I mean. So basically this could be an object, this could be a string, this could be an integer, it could be anything, any of the sort of types that JSON supports. It could be an array. So that's how I'm doing the persistent state, and then when I load it up and I do from save model here, what I could do in here is I could see if, so there's a couple of cases here, but basically what happens is if there is a state transfer object on the ability that I'm loading back in, then what I do is I just invoke that state transfer deserialize. That deserialize will call the setter after deserializing that JSON object to my type that I've specified. So anyway, that's how I'm basically getting data from like internal data from an ability into the save file and then back into that ability when we load the save file. So hopefully that's interesting. If not, I'm sorry to waste your time. Hello, Jack at Daytona. It's time for Game Dev once again. Yes, indeed. And I also implemented a similar pattern for artifacts. So the Iron Gauntlet, for example, has this current damage that increases every time you defeat a combat encounter. Obviously, that needs to be saved as well. So I basically just use the same exact pattern. I've got this artifact persistent state. It is artifact persistent state. It basically has the same body here. Actually, I think this is this is exactly the same. The reason why I didn't use the same object, what is it? Persistent state. I think it's called state transfer. The reason why I didn't use this is because this is specifically for abilities, and this is handled a little bit differently in certain cases compared to the artifact, including internally. So this state transfer not only handles serialization and deserialization for abilities, but this handles also getting internal state into a duplicated version of the ability. So like if I were to alchemize the Flagrum, for instance, that Flagrum ability that might have multiple stacks of damage, that will be duplicated and then put onto the alchemy outputs as well. And during that duplication, this state transfer takes effect as well. So it takes the internal state from the old version of the ability and it sets the internal state of the new version of the ability with the same data. Whereas with this, artifacts are different, and they're going to be, this artifact persistence state is going to be used slightly differently. It's possible that these things are just going to be copy pastes of each other for the rest of development and never change, but I felt a little bit uneasy using the same like state transfer object for both abilities and artifacts, so I just made them duplicate for now, but maybe those will merge together some other time. But anyway, this is the same, almost the same exact pattern here. So the Iron Gauntlet, it has a persistent state and overridable persistent state getter in the base artifact. I can define the concrete artifact persistent state with the type that it expects, but since that implements the interface, I can just go ahead and override that with the concrete object. Then I assign it in the constructor, and then when I go to recreate the artifacts in my run save manager, load player artifacts, I do the same thing. So I iterate over all the artifact entries in the save file. If I create that artifact and the entry has persistent state and the base artifact object has persistent state, then I just go ahead and shuffle that data over. So I deserialize that artifact entry into that base artifact, so on and so forth. Anyway, there's only a handful of artifacts that have persistent state. The trickiest one was the Unicorn Horn, because this one swaps your blood and residue values when you acquire it, but without storing some kind of acquisition state, this would swap it every time you load up the game, which was something I almost overlooked, but anyway, we're just storing an is acquired bool. So basically this will get set to true the first time that it takes effect, and then it will not take effect any other time. So if you quit the game and load back up, it's going to be marked as it's already been applied, and so it won't do it again. Anyway, saving is more complicated than I thought. Yeah, it's there's a lot to consider, but it's fun. I'm having a good time with it. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome back. Nathan, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we need to move on to the next part, which is saving the map state. And I don't really know how I want to do that. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, I think. So I need to save all of these configurations. I need to save the positions of the patrol flags. Oh gosh. This is going to be a little bit tricky. It's going to be quite a lot of work. That's all right though. So let me think about this. So we've got a run map. How do I want to do this? Run map node is revealed notoriety region. Maybe this will actually be more complicated than the ability system. I thought it would be easier, but maybe not. Is this RNG ever used? What's going on here? Let me see something real quick. Okay, so I need to save the RNG state. So let me think about this for a second. So we've got the run map. Nodes, start node. Got the run map node. So I need to serialize. I need to serialize the run map. I need to serialize all the run map nodes, but then I need to serialize the seeded run as well. So I almost wonder if I could just serialize this base seeded run and have that be responsible for serializing the run map, and that would be responsible for serializing the nodes. I think that would work. Godot best engine there, I said it. Hello, Justin. Welcome to the stream. I agree, Godot best engine. I'm speaking from experience of having barely used any other engine. Okay. I think the thing to do is just to try to serialize the seeded run. Oh boy. Alright, well, let's just start. We'll just start doing something and see what happens. Okay, so we've got the seeded run model. Alrighty. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to do JSON property RNG state public ulong RNG state patrol flag RNG. What is that? That's only done once. Maybe we might as well save that as well, even if we don't use it. So all of these node configurations, that's going to be the tricky one as well. I might have to just individually serialize all of these as well. I think that will be okay though. I wonder. I think there's an opportunity here for me to do something more sophisticated with Newtonsoft here. I think I can define rules for like how to serialize and deserialize like a random number generator, for instance, but I don't know exactly how to do that. Using Newtonsoft JSON, how can I define the rules for how random number generator is serialized, deserialized? Make a dictionary of nodes when the nodes are generated and have it store the states. Explored, connected, not explored. Yeah, I mean, that's what we have to do. I mean, that data is already there. It's not just a matter of like storing the states though, it's making sure to serialize everything properly, making sure to deserialize everything properly. Like some of this data is not directly serializable or deserializable. So I need to make sure that I'm storing or serializing all the state that is necessary to recreate the runtime state, because some of it is not going to need to be stored. Jeez. Oh, my screen is not big enough for this. Oh, my screen is not big enough for this. That's all right. Let's see, util JSON random number generator converter .cs. Let's just go ahead and yeet this out of here. Namespace game.util.json. Number generator converter, JSON converter, random number generator. So state write value, value.state. Okay. Return new random number generator. Oh, I need to store the seed as well. Value.seed. Okay. I don't like that. Okay. Return new random number generator. Seed is equal to seed. And this is a U-long as well. And then state equals state. Okay. So we have the JSON converter now. This ambiguous reference between blah, 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 blah. I don't care. There we go. All right. So then we go to the data initializer here. Default settings. Okay, so I can just put any converters I want. So that should make it a little bit easier because now what I can do, which is pretty cool, is I could go to my seeded run model and instead of doing this, storing the state and the seed separately, I could do public random number generator RNG. Like so. And then I can do patrol flag RNG as well. And so I've basically given it the rules of how you're supposed to serialize and deserialize this Godot random number generator. And so now it's just going to store the data that I need. And the nice thing about that is I can just update the converter if I need to store additional data. Okay, so anyway, so there's our JSON converter for that. But that would be nice. Anytime I need to store like RNG state, I can just use the RNG object directly, which is going to save me some time, I think. Okay. So back to base seeded run. We're going to have to figure out how to do all these things. Now I'm questioning, do I want to write a converter for run map node? Do I want to write a converter for run map node, or do I want to bake serialized and deserialized data right into here? Now I'll probably want to bake the serialized and deserialized data into here, so I'm going to need to serialize that. And we will need to serialize the run map as well. So basically, all of these things need to be reconstructed. And then loaded back in. Let's serialize the run map. We could do the notoriety tiers too, so this is easy enough. JSON property, notoriety tier. Oh, I just realized I'm going to need to save the Inquisition strength. Okay, and then we want to save the run map as well. So let's do run map model, and then we might as well do another file, run map node model. Oops. Okay, so let's take a look at our run map now. Nodes, public list run map node model, nodes, start node is equal to public run map node model start node. Maybe, I mean, the start node is going to be in the list of nodes, right? So maybe I should just do like start node index or something like it suggested. Notoriety regions. So I'm going to need to serialize this as well. Shoot, this is going to be difficult. I'm almost wondering if I should give an ID to each node, because I have edges in here as well. Notoriety region, edges. Probably going to need to serialize those edges as well. Which I think... I think it might be easier to reconstruct these trees if I give each node a unique ID. Are the floating Inquisition eyeballs part of the map? Those are not in the game anymore, but the patrol flags which replaced them are, yes, those are in the map as well. So those need to be saved. Hello, ItJoy, welcome. Good to see you again. I may just have to give these... Do I want to give these a unique ID? Probably do. Wow. All right, well, let's just go ahead and do this then. Public string ID. I guess we could just do a nano ID generate there. And then we'll just make sure to restore the ID the way it should be. So we've got node start nodes and notoriety region. These need to be serialized as well. So let's just create another model in here. Okay. We are going to need to serialize the edges. Hello, Neozoid. Welcome back. Good to see you. So the tricky part is, like, these are all passed by reference. So when I reconstruct the notoriety region, maybe I don't need to save the edges for the notoriety. Well, where is this used? Oh, that just establishes all the node connections. So maybe I don't need to save edge data. Maybe I just need to save the connections here. Yeah. I can reconstruct the edge data from the connections. So what this could become, this run map node model. So we need JSON property ID. Okay, we need the position. Let's just store the position. Okay. Node event type. Is this ever used? Yeah. Okay. So we basically need to store all these things. Event resource, we don't need to store that. Historical event types, we do need that one. Do I want to store this debug score? We won't worry about that for now. Visited wanted level override. I don't know if I could do like a nullable int there, but we'll see. Okay, so we have the run map node now being set. So let's go ahead and do public run map node model to save model. Okay. This one needs to be just the position coming in as an argument. Node event type, node event type. Do I have like an RNG? I do, so I need to save the RNG as well. Let's put this up here. Okay. I'm debating attempting a VoIP system with GD extension in C++. Do I want to inflict that misery on myself is the question. Hello, thick beat boy. I mean, it sounds like a fun project for sure. It sounds like a fun project, so... Okay, so we have the run map model. Let's go back to the run map. I'm going to need to save the notoriety regions. So let's see. We've got the start node, notoriety regions. Fortunately, we just need to store that. So now I need to do, let's see, run map model, JSON property, notoriety regions, list notoriety region model. Okay, so now let's go back to our notoriety regions here. We are going to need the MST, run map node nodes. The notoriety region model, I think I want to make this a list of node IDs so that I can enforce everything being passed by reference, because I don't want to create new run map nodes for this data. The run map nodes, the entire run map node data should be stored here in this overall nodes list, and then anytime I need to reference a node in the notoriety region model, for example, I'll just use the ID instead. these can be computed on load. So I think I really just need... Oh, are these checkpoint nodes not used? I don't need that anymore. So I just need to store... Do I need to store the MST? I don't think so. So maybe I'll just store the nodes. So we'll do JSON property. Let's call it node IDs. And I might change this actually. This connections here. Connection node IDs. Connection node IDs. Okay. Notoriety region. So we've got the node IDs here. And then we need to store the stronghold node ID. Okay, and then in my run map model, we have the list of notoriety regions there. Okay. All right. So let's go to our run map here. Actually, let's go to the seeded run. Let's just start from the top. So we'll go to base seeded run. And what I will do in here is I will do public void to save model seeded run model. What? Oh no. So this is going to be to save model as well, and we will return model. And then I can do public static base seeded run from save model. I don't know why this is doing this. So we're going to need to store all those configurations as well, but I think that's all the data we have for now. Okay, so now we need to go to the run map and do the to save model there. Just put it at the top, I guess. Public run map model to save model. I'm going to need to be able to read that wanted level. But wait, what am I doing this for? No. This is going to be node.toSave model here. Okay. Start node index. I'm going to change this actually. Let's change this to start node ID. And this will be a string. Okay. Start node ID is equal to start node ID. Notoriety regions, we're going to change this one. So this needs to be to save model and from save model as well. Public notoriety region model to save model. Stronghold ID. Let's just fill out the static as well. Public static notoriety region from save model. Okay. Notoriety regions dot select region dot to save model. Okay. Hopefully that works. Now we need to do public static run map from save model. Oh, I got to do run map node from save model now. Public static run map node from save model. Oh, it's a read only, that's why. Okay, well, that's fine. Okay. So we go to from save model, we do run map from save model. This is going to do run map node from save model, mapping that to the ID. So that's our node lookup. Node lookup.values. Let's just do var all nodes is equal to yeah, maybe it was fine the way it was. Run map add nodes. For each var node model in model.nodes, blah, blah, blah. We're going to connect those nodes together. Run map start node is start node ID. For each var region model in notoriety regions from save model, run map.notorietyregions.add. Okay. Notoriety regions.order and then compute extents. Goodness gracious. So I don't know if the loading is going to work that well. What I'm more interested in doing is the saving, to be honest. So I want to see if all that data looks reasonable. So let's go to the run save manager now, and now we got to figure out how to save the map or save seeded run. Where is that seeded run saved? Run manager. So we've got this create seeded run in here. I need to redo the tutorial. Shoot, there's a lot to do. So I'm kind of tempted to just rip out all the tutorial stuff. Oh, I need to store the current run map node as well. Well, this is all app container set player node. All right, well, let's just get the saving working to start. I do need a reference to this seeded run, though. So what I'm going to do is... Do I need a reference to that seeded run? Who should be the owner of this seeded run, I wonder? Well, it's leveraged all the way through here. Maybe the run save manager should own the seeded run. So I'm thinking the run save manager. So the run save manager is kind of like, it's kind of has two purposes, which is a little bit bad, but basically what it does for all these cases is it says, okay, do I have data in the save file for whatever I'm trying to do? If I do, then reconstruct that data. And if I don't have that data, then use whatever defaults are coming in from the run config. So basically what I'm doing is like this is called a run save manager, but it's not exactly that. It's more like a run setup manager or a run data manager. So basically everything about how the map is being generated and like what the player's character is and what the starting cards is, what the health is, that's all going through this run save manager. So that what I can do is, like I said, I can look at my current save and say, okay, do I already have a character defined, like a character ID defined in the save? Then instantiate that character. Otherwise, fall back to the run config. So when you start a run, this run config object is generated. That is passed through to the run manager. The run manager passes that run config down into this load current run of the run save manager. And then because the run config also has a save model associated with it, what this run save manager will do is it will look into that save model first and load everything from the save model. And if that model doesn't exist, then it just establishes the defaults in accordance with what's specified in this run config. So the seed, whether we're in a tutorial or not, the selected character, all that good stuff. And so I think what makes sense to happen here is I think the seeded run probably needs to be moved to be owned by this run save manager, because what's going to happen is we call load current run. That run config is either going to have a save model or not going to have a save model. In both cases, I'm going to need to construct that seeded run object. The only difference is that the seeded run is either going to be generated fresh or it's going to be reconstructed from the save data. So I think that makes sense. You inspired me to do Massive Refactor a few days ago. I've mostly finished it and took 50 hours. Oh my goodness. Well, sometimes those are necessary. Yeah, refactors, especially when the refactor makes your code very obviously better, is very satisfying. Good morning, Chris. How are you doing? Hello, Rookie Tookie. Good to see you. Good morning to you. Good morning. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit this. Going to commit that. And then we're going to need to rework some of this code for... I mean, really what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get to the point where I can save the run in the JSON or save the map in the JSON and see what that looks like. Loading is going to be a whole different beast because I need to make sure that there's not like computed values that need to be recomputed. So again, like instead of storing absolutely everything in the save file, storing only the stuff that is necessary to recreate the state, but some of that state that needs to be recreated might need to be explicitly like recalculated on the load. So it's just going to be a matter of very carefully going through the code and making sure that everything is being situated properly. Also refactoring over here. Sometimes refactoring is fun. I find that refactoring is a lot more fun with like the AI tools as well. I think one of the things that makes refactoring not so fun is like you have, 3 different ideas for how to refactor it and you're not entirely sure which direction to go. I find that talking to the AI about your concerns, what you're trying to achieve, and the approaches that you're considering is very helpful. Also, a lot of times refactoring involves just like updating like 50 different places in the code because you added like a new required property or whatever. That's a good place to just make the AI do that while you go and get coffee or something. So anyway, I have been enjoying AI for that case. But anyway, we're not going to have the AI write the save system because I need to understand how this is working. So, trying to do it all by my lonesome. But I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and when I come back, we will continue on. We're going to try to see if we can get the map configuration being saved, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, BRB. All right, I'm back. With your save loading, how are you handling hydrating state? So this might be a little bit embarrassing to admit, but I've never been quite sure what hydrating means. I assume what it means, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is like you have to restore the state of the objects that you're loading from the save file, obviously, but that state may need to propagate updates throughout the system as well in accordance with that state. Is that right? Yeah, the very basic instantiating them with their persistent storage state. The very basic is instancing them with their persistent storage state. So yeah, I mean, as far as like... Yeah, I guess the... Well, I mean, the initial reconstruction is just, to save model from save model, just recreating the object based on the save data, recomputing whatever's necessary. But then as far as like what happens if there's secondary and like tertiary things in the game that need to update based on that state, I'm going to need to figure that out, I think. Because I think I also have, like, in my run manager, I've got a ton of things in here too that need to be saved. So yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be a tough problem. We're gonna have to figure it out one step at a time. So we probably want to create the seeded run first. Okay, we can close all this, I think. Let's see. We are going to need to store the seeded run here. JSON property, seeded run, public, seeded run model. Okay. All right. So run save manager. Do we want to do load first? Let's do save first. Save seeded run. Save seeded run. Okay. Var seeded run model is equal to new seeded run model. Okay. Seeded run. We do not have the RNG in here. Actually, I don't know why I'm doing that. I should just do what I was doing before. Like so. Oh, I already have that down. Okay. I forgot I did that. So this in here should be relatively simple. I just say seeded run model is equal to seeded run.toSave model. Current run save model seeded run is equal to seeded run model. So that should handle building out everything there. Hopefully. So now we can do a load seeded run. Let's see, private void load seeded run model. Actually, this should just be run config. Run config. Now I need to go back to my run manager here, and I need to look at this create seeded run. So let's get rid of is tutorial enabled for now. I think is run map statistics enabled. Let's just take this. We'll go this into the run save manager here. Okay. So we'll do this. If run config dot run save model is not equal to null, then we're going to do seeded run, or we're going to do seeded run is equal to base seeded run from save model like so. Else, we're going to say seeded run config.seed.hasValue. Okay, and that's going to call generate. Yeah, so I'm not calling generate when I load it from the save model, so that's good. Okay, so now in this run manager here, we need to get rid of the seeded run in here now. That's not going to be stored there anymore. Now we're going to do run save manager.seeded run. Actually, I can make this a little bit easier on myself. I love doing this little trick. Private base seeded run. We'll just make this a getter, like so. And since this is a property now, or like a getter, I can rename that to capital, and I save everything. Oh, it didn't work. Why didn't that work? Oh, because I spelled it wrong. There we go. Now we can rename everything. So now I can still reference that with that seeded run, but it's going to return the underlying seeded run from the run manager there instead. So now I need to find all the references here and make sure that I'm not doing anything like changing the state or anything. Seeded run notoriety tier. I suppose that's fine, actually. As long as the run save manager owns that seeded run object, it should save everything just fine. Okay, but we have this create seeded run here. I'm going to need to do this. Set up seeded run. So up here, we're going to load current run and then set up the seeded run. This should be turned into current run map node. Okay, anyway. All right, let's see what happens. So I'm going to, I don't have a save file right now. So let's see if this just generates the map correctly. I think it should. Okay, so the map is being generated. Now I want to save the run. I'm going to actually save it. That took 50 milliseconds. So let's see, save run, 4 milliseconds. Okay, that's a little bit more reasonable. So now I can look at my alchemortis.json and we've got a whole bunch of everything now. But we can see that all these nodes are being saved now. And actually there's one. Okay, this actually is working correctly. So return, this is wrong. This needs to be, oh wait, from save model, model.position model. Oh no, that is working. Okay, that is fine. Okay. So all that data is being saved now in this JSON file. And we've got those node IDs working. Oh, look at that. That one that says goon. Very nice. Anyway, so if I search for this one in the file, I can see that this is connected in a lot of ways. So like it's part of this node region or this notoriety region here. It's connected to a couple of those nodes. And then the RNG state and seed is being propagated properly. So that's good. I'm noticing now that all of these have the same state and the same seed. Why do all the nodes have the same state and the same seed? Interesting. I wonder, that probably shouldn't be the same RNG object. Oh, I'm saving the wrong RNG object. That's why. This needs to be this RNG. I'm glad I caught that. That would have been quite a sneaky bug. So let's see. Initial RNG, or maybe I'll make this a little bit nicer. I'll just do U-long initial seed. Yeah, we'll do seed like that, and then we'll say wherever that broke, I'm gonna do new random number generator, rand unsigned long. Oh no, we just do this. So we've got that seed that will be set up in here. And then hopefully new run map node, this will be, oh, I need to save that. We'll just reassign that RNG there. It's a little bit weird, but that's fine. What software do you use to make music for your game, or do you pay someone to do it? I'm paying my friend to make the music. So I'm not at the point where I want to learn how to make my own music, so I'm not doing that. Making awesome progress. Hello, Smashwall Dev. How collecting wish lists going? I think there's a couple thousand wish lists now. It's not enough, but there's a plan for that, so stay tuned. There is a plan for that. Okay, let's make sure that this actually works now. I should probably build the game and see if I have any other errors. Right. Okay, I think that will build. So now we're going to delete this alchemortis.json save file. I'm going to run the game. Save run. Alrighty. So now let's take a look at this and make sure all these seeds are different now. Yeah. The state is different, the seeds are different. Very cool. Alright. Alright, so now we have a question of, is this going to generate the same map? Let's see what happens. Alright, so we've got an error and it did not generate the same map. Object must implement iConvertible. So loading the save fails. Data initializer 90. Random number generator converter 27. Can I not read U-long values? Is it not possible to get U-long values out of the JSON? Serialize deserializes strings. Value dot state dot toString. Okay. Those are the kind of things that we're going to have to deal with, I suppose. Delete. Let's try it again. Couple thousand before Next Fest sounds not bad. Well, I'm not going to be participating in probably the upcoming Next Fest. I'm not going to participate in the Next Fest until the game is basically done. And the Next Fest is just going to be a purely marketing thing. I don't want to get in a situation where I do well in the Next Fest and then the game doesn't come out for 6 months or whatever. I'd rather, do a Next Fest and then within a couple of weeks after that, release the game. But we'll see. Like I said, there's a marketing plan being cooked up. So that may change, but we'll see. Did I not save? Oh, I did save the file. Okay. So now that state and seed are being stored as strings. Okay, let's run the game again and see what happens. He's in fact cooking. Hello, Locutus. Welcome. Okay, did that restore the map state properly? Okay, so let's just take a mental note. So we've got 2 boosters. We've got an enchant and an artifact. So I'm going to reload the game. Object reference not set to an instance of object. Yeah, that is working. So it's putting all the nodes in the correct place. Now those configuration objects are not being saved. So that's the next step, is in this base seeded run, all of these configuration objects need to be saved. So combat configuration, shop configuration, artifact configuration, all that stuff. Notoriety regions to boss configuration, notoriety regions to patrol flag configuration. And yeah, we're gonna have to store all this stuff as well. Node A, node B. We're gonna need to save the current edge. So there's a lot to do here. How are your experiences with using Opus with Godot? It works well. It works really well. Surprised you aren't trying to go all the way into determinism to solve the map state instead of saving every node. The problem is going full determinism would be a little bit too brittle for my liking, because all it takes is one, minor change to when those RNG when those random number generator calls are done, and it would completely ruin the map that was saved. I mean, maybe I could minimize that by isolating it more. isolating the RNG a little bit more. You would use the same seed but multiple deterministic generators. I'm trying to think. I mean, would that work? Copilot is so fun to use. I think the problem with going full determinism is that there's still some dynamic parts of the map, like the patrol flags need to move around. So those can't just be rebuilt from determinism alone. The way that the Inquisition strength works is that it upgrades all the combat encounters after you hit 100, and then the strongholds will upgrade all non-combat encounters after you defeat a stronghold. So I'd have to like replay that stuff as well. So I don't know, I haven't given it too much thought, but I think that would be very difficult as well. Probably more difficult than just storing the state of everything. Sounds normal to me. You would build the map and then reapply certain changes to it. Yeah, I know that. I mean, the question is that going to be easier than just storing the current state of everything? It would be easier in the sense that I wouldn't need to store all this data. But would it be more predictable? Would it be easy to reason about compared to storing the data directly and loading from that data? Hello, Ninja Link. Welcome back. Good to see you. To me, it sounds brittle to store the exact structure of the map, and if any one thing gets read wrong, then it may throw off the whole run. But if you only had like a few pieces and reassembled the game. The problem is, I mean, it's going to have to be a mix. There's going to have to be a certain state that does get saved. So I'd have to rebuild the map exactly the same using the RNG. Yeah, I mean, I guess the benefit of doing it the way that I'm doing it is that I could make minor changes to the RNG and how that works without breaking any existing saves or regenerating a map differently than the existing saves. I guess what I'm really worried about is just like absent-mindedly or inadvertently changing something about how the RNG builds out the map. And even if I isolated all these deterministic systems properly, that could still fundamentally change the map that was saved for the player. I mean, there may be room to do a mix of both here. Let's see. So like these configuration objects, I know Hades supported loading saves from old versions on new binaries, but I don't know how they handled it really. Yeah, I don't know. I've never done a save system like this, so I don't know either. I may have to give that more thought. Maybe I should pause on the save system here and just commit what I have. I think maybe there is an opportunity to do more deterministic rebuilding of the map, particularly as it relates to these run configurations. Or where is it? The base seeded run. I think maybe these could be regenerated, so I don't have to save the state of each of these individual configurations here. Like, where is generate combat configurations? Generate combat encounters. Yeah, I guess if I properly isolated all the RNG, all the deterministic systems, it would be a little bit more fault tolerant, meaning that if I changed how the RNG works in like one part of the map, it wouldn't affect everything else. Like, keep the RNG for like node placement, for example, separate from the RNG of like what generates the node types. And then even in here, like this generate combat encounters, this would create its own RNG object as well. And then what that should in theory allow is that I could just call this generate combat encounters again. The problem is like when the combat encounters get upgraded as a result of the Inquisition strength going up, like there's an order of operations that needs to be maintained here as well. So if I'm rebuilding the map, I would generate all the combat encounters the way that they were initially generated. And then I would have to then mark all of the visited nodes as visited so that those are removed from consideration, and then do the combat upgrade. But again, like there's an order of operations, right? So like, I think generate combat encounter. Yeah, I guess the question is like, I guess with just proper isolation of all the RNG, I could make it order independent, I guess. So yeah, I would have to go through the code and make sure to like disentangle anything that's order dependent. That would be one major thing I'd have to do. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. I mean, that may be doable. There are still some things like the patrol flag configuration here But again, I guess this could be rebuilt. Like if I stored... Like instead of storing the current edge, I could store like how many steps it has gone through. So how many times has it been moved, or how many times has this RNG object been invoked? And then just replay that on map load. I think, yeah, there's gonna have to be major changes made either way. I guess the question is, what is the better approach here? Do I store a bunch of state in the save file, or do I just rebuild using determinism and store only the state that is necessary to store? I'm gonna have to think about that. I think both options are viable. I'm actually very close with getting the state storage working. I think it's just the configuration objects that need to be stored, but I think it would be a lot cleaner, or it would be a lot easier, you know, as the game develops and as I add content, for it to just be purely deterministically rebuilt, because then I don't have to worry about I have to worry about creating like these save models for every new event type that gets added, so on and so forth. And then for the big changes, like let's say I do add a new event type to the map, what I can do is I can just invalidate the save, right? I could just say, hey, this save is incompatible with the current version of the game. Or I could just allow it to do its thing. I could just say, hey, you know, you're playing an old save on a new version of the game. Your map may not be exactly the same. Do you want to continue? Yes. I could allow it to change if people are okay with that. Dang it, Chris. Why have you thrown a wrench into my plans? Hello, Firebelly. It's been a long time since I've been in one of your streams. What are you making? We're doing a save system for the game to allow players to save during the run and continue from the run. Yeah, lots to think about. Lots to think about indeed. Alright, well, tell you what. We're going to put a pause on the save system for now, because I want to give this more thought before I continue down this path. So, do I want to... I think most of these changes are good. I think if I do go to the deterministic route, most of these changes are easy to undo. But the whole flow about how this is running through the save manager now, I think that's appropriate. So what is say progress on map state saving. So we will commit that. It's not breaking anything. The game builds and it's just a little bit broken when I load from an existing save. I should also add a debug capability to ignore the save file. So maybe what I will do, maybe we'll just do that really quick, because I don't want to have to delete my save file every time I'm trying to test the game. So let's go to game debug. Let's do ignore save file. It's equal to game debug ignore save file. Come on, Copilot. Public static bool is ignore save file enabled. Project, go to game debug here. Ignore save file. Bool. Add. Uh-oh. Delete that. Ignore save file add. Turn that on for now. We'll go to the run save manager. I'll just do this in here, it's fine. is ignore save file enabled. We're just going to set run config.run save model equal null. What? I can't set that? So we'll just ignore the save model there. So now when I run the game, it'll be as if I'm not using a save file at all. That'll be very nice for just testing purposes. Oops, I didn't mean to close that. Big thonkin', yes indeed. We do some big thonkin' here. Okay, so that should work. It's not ignoring the save. How is it not ignoring the save file? Oh, those must be my test cards. Yeah. Yep, oh, those are my test cards. Okay. All right. So I'll tell you what, I want to do some experimentation with my pot art. So I posted in the Discord the new pot art that's happening here, which looks like this. I like this style here. The one thing I don't like is that I just use the symmetry tool to draw this. So I kind of want to redraw it in the same style, but without using the symmetry, so it looks a little bit more organic, I guess you could say. But this is the final piece of art that I need to do for the whole brightening effort that I've been doing. So yeah, I'd like to see if I can improve this a little bit. So we'll give that a shot, but I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break first, and then when I come back, we will redraw this middle part at least, and we'll see what happens. So I'll be right back in just 3 minutes, and we'll continue on. All right, let's see what we can do here. So I've created a copy of a copy of a copy. And we are going to just try this again. So I am going to turn on this symmetry just so I can fill this back in roughly the way it's supposed to be filled in. Okay. We're just going to do this the very lazy way. At least get these off the edges here. Okay. And then let's use this lasso tool. Let's go in here. Alrighty. Oops. Okay, and then I can remove that one. We're gonna have to clean this up a little bit, but that's all right. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. But anyway, I'm gonna try it. Do you have any tips for making top-down bullet hell games? Do I have any tips? I mean, the only real top-down bullet hell game that I've made was Gunforged, and I think people enjoyed that enough. There were some problems with it, but I think, I mean, the very basic things is like the movement needs to feel good and the shooting needs to feel good, because that's going to be your entire gameplay, right? So if your movement feels weird, if your shooting isn't impactful enough, isn't visceral enough, then people are just going to lose interest. So you probably want to spend an inordinate amount of time fine-tuning your movement. Like, how does your dash feel like? What are the accelerations on the movement? What are the decelerations on the movement? How responsive is it? And then also with the shooting, you know, do you have appropriate particle effects? What does it look like when enemies die? Does it feel like super chunky and satisfying when enemies die? And then beyond that, like, yeah, you just want to make sure that your enemies are distinct enough from one another, because what you also don't want to happen is, so you're going through this loop, you're shooting a bunch of bullets, you're killing enemies, but every enemy feels the same. And I think this was kind of actually a critique of Gunforged. Like a lot of, I think some players felt that the enemies were just like not different enough from each other, but I tried to do that. I tried to make it so that every enemy not only just has a unique art style, but also has different attack patterns, right? So every enemy is going to behave differently from every other enemy, which is designed to give the player like a series of interesting decisions to make. Because if every enemy acts exactly the same, then it's like, I mean, I guess that can work, because that's kind of like what Vampire Survivors is, right? It's just like every enemy acting the same. But that's not exactly true either, because like in Vampire Survivors, you'll have like the bat swarms that come through, and then you've got like the bosses that surround you, right? But anyway, beyond that, I don't know if those tips are super helpful. I think those are kind of, well, maybe they're not obvious tips, but those are the kinds of things that you definitely should be thinking about. So I don't know if that helps, but hopefully it does. This is going to look really ugly for a second, but bear with me. I hope this turns out better than the previous iteration, but only one way to find out, really. So I think the trick here is to kind of just do increasing bands outward of color. And obviously this is going to need to be shaped a little bit to the pot. But this is kind of what I do here. And then the idea is that, yeah, I mean, I guess that's okay. So the idea is that there's these little bright spots that fade out, but then these bright spots will also have like brighter spots within them. But the intensity of those brighter spots starts to dissipate. So basically, you have a high concentration of these bright orange in the middle, and then they kind of become a lot sparser out at the edges like this, right? But they're still present a little bit. So we've got stuff like that, and then here, like this is a big blob of nothing, no highlighting. So I can just like fill that in to some degree. But then we keep that pattern going. So then there's a high concentration of the red here, but as the red goes out, it loses that that orange. But then this dark purple kicks in, and the dark purple, or this, I guess is not the dark purple, but this purple color will have the same thing. So there will be like red highlights in here as well. And so it looks a little bit inorganic because I've just created a block, a square block here. But we do things like this. And this probably needs to curve over this way a little bit more. Maybe. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it turns. I mean, I liked the way that it was turning out, so we'll have to see how that goes. So yeah, like up here, we'll do like a little highlight there and a little highlight there. So it just kind of fades out from the center. And so hopefully you can see how this pattern is kind of working. And then of course there's going to be the brightest spots in here. And maybe this, the orange needs to be a little bit thicker in here too. Do not use the scene tree for bullets. Yeah, that's true. It's definitely true. You need to figure out what the core mechanics the player will always be interacting with and make sure those systems feel amazing. Yeah. Otherwise, the entire game will suffer for it. Yeah. Hello, Junie. Long stream today, yes. That looks fancy. Hello, Wuius. Yeah, I'm trying to make it look fancy. I'm trying to. We will see how it goes, though. Let's start by making this shape a little bit more organic here. It's kind of messing with me how rectangular that is. And so now we start just peppering like smaller ones out here. Trying to make it roughly match. This probably could use a red highlight down here. Maybe. Yeah, like that. So yeah, kind of trying to add some texture to the pot here. And then so I think a similar thing needs to be done out at the black edges here. What does this look like? So this was, yeah, so that was filling the pot before. So maybe I need to actually spread this out. Maybe I need to spread that out more. Shoot. I guess I should have thought about this, but oh well. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe this one should be... Maybe I should use symmetry for this one. That might actually be too large. We're doing a little bit of experimenting, it's okay. Just gotta get this curve working very well. Nope, not quite. Okay. Is that, I think that's too large as well. I think I'm trying to... That's a little bit better. Why can't I get this curve to work where I... Maybe if I make sound effects while I do it, it'll work better. Boop. Son of a biscuit. Ugh, fudge. My favorite mechanic of shmups is you have to have a move you have access to that allows you to avoid damage at any time, but you have to use it, otherwise you die. For instance, Ikaruga's black-white system or Radiant Silvergun's Radiant Sword. Am I just like incapable of drawing a proper curve? Okay, that one's probably good actually. All right, so let's fill. So I actually think, let's do this. So I'm just gonna haphazardly blot this around. Okay, we'll see what we can do with that. Make the orange thicker. Let's just get rid of these for now. We are redrawing it. Okay. I think it's maybe getting there. I think it's maybe getting there. Let's see. Okay. Okay, maybe that's okay. I don't know. I think we're getting there. All right, maybe that's okay for that. And then we'll just go ahead and start carving spots out here. All right. I guess we're getting there. I don't know. Just drawing a bunch of random shapes, that's all. Pixel art is as simple as that, everybody. Just draw a bunch of random shapes. Okay. Maybe we're getting there. Just gonna break up some of these things in here. Oh, I heard a bang outside. That's not good. So I guess we're getting there. Hello, Stone Roblox. This looks great. Is the background music from your game? It is not. No, it's just random, royalty-free fantasy music, I guess. It is not from my game. Although my game's music is pretty dope. I just don't have enough tracks in the game yet to be able to fill out a stream without being super repetitive, you know what I mean? But maybe someday. Maybe someday. Let's get rid of this. We'll just get rid of all this stuff out here. Yeah, I think we're almost there. I think we're almost there. I'm gonna need to figure out what to do about those sides, but let's do this over here first. Yeah, this side definitely needs some more purple over here. Yeah, this purple needs to come out closer to the edges over here. Just kind of measure this. That's 35 pixels. Yeah, so this one, the purple kind of extends a little bit farther. But that's okay. Let's just finish. We'll work on balancing it in a second, but let's work on finishing. Finishing this side of it. I mean, let's see. That's 20. Well, let me do this correctly. 25 pixels. 22 pixels. I guess it doesn't have to be perfectly balanced, but could potentially add some more highlighting. What about the purple? So from this end to here, 38. From this end to here, 39. Okay. It's roughly balanced, I think. And so now we want to do the white highlights in here. Hopefully this doesn't turn out terribly. Experiment with making some of these a little bit thicker. Well, I'm sure there's room for improvement, but let's fix all this stuff. This side over here still needs some work. Well, all right. Well, how do we feel about that? So this was the old version. That's the new version. Oh, wait, no. So old version, new version. I think I like the new version better. The new version feels less like, I don't know, I don't know what it is about that one. I mean, that one's cool, but this one looks much more like a rough cauldron surface than this one. But we've got a couple of options to play with. I think what I want to do, though, is I do want to outline this down here with a double black outline. Then we got to fix this here. All right, how are you feeling about this? Yes, no? I think it looks pretty cool. I may end up tweaking it some more, but I would say it's relatively good. Okay, well, we'll just run save manager. Why does that have unsaved changes? The asymmetry works well, I think. Yeah. So I think the fact that this is more organic and that I didn't use the symmetry for it, but also this was the previous version that was drawn with symmetry. There's something about this pattern that doesn't make it look round necessarily. So I think the new pattern works well. Yeah. I think I'm happy with that. I mean, I'm probably going to tweak it some more, but the next thing to do is to figure out the highlighting on this part because it looks a little bit flat. But yeah, we'll get there. And then the spoon, of course, needs to be redone, but I think that looks pretty cool. I think that looks pretty cool. All right, well, looks swag for sure. All right, good. Glad you like it. That's going to be it for the stream for now, though. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for being here. Very much appreciated, as always. Again, you can wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. Let me pull it up. It's a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can create your own synergies by using the alchemy system. Sorry, one second. Anyway, so yeah, give that a wish list if you're interested. Would appreciate it. And also, yeah, you can join the Discord. You can follow on Twitch. You can like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll post a message in the Discord if I go live again today. Otherwise, I'll be back at it again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, so I hope to see you there. All right, take care, everyone. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.